And I'm Matt Hanna.
And I'm having travel anxiety.
Oh, that's usually what my line is next.
Well, this is Horror Hour at the Hannas, but I'm also having travel anxiety.
Because you're about to leave?
Yeah, I'm about to drive, it's only 3 hours, but it's by myself and it's through New York City, and I really have no tolerance for that.
3 hours is easy.
But through New York City?
You'll be fine.
It's like
I have to go to Canada tomorrow. Put on a bus.
But you're with a bunch of people and you're not driving, so it's entirely different.
I don't know, the bus we take is pretty scary and doesn't have a bathroom.
My car doesn't have a bathroom either.
True.
So, what do you want from me?
Alright.
Well, this is Horror Hour with the Hannas, and today we are discussing...
Se7en.
An age-old classic in our household. Se7en, as we call it. No, we'll just
say it's 7.
It's 7, but because the way it's stylized, we often do call it Se7en.
Pretty terrible stylization, actually, but it looks cool.
It looks cool. But
it's like a 7, the number 7 is not a V. Yeah. I mean, it's a V on its side. Dog. Yeah.
Se7en. So Se7en was directed by David Fincher, written by Andrew Kevin Walker, starring Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Kevin Spacey. So, there is so much background on this freaking movie that I had to pick and choose what I thought was most fun to talk about. But what I will say and start with is that this is only David Fincher's second movie, which is absolutely wild to me. I would not have guessed that. His directorial debut, Alien 3, I think he almost got fired or did get fired from it multiple times.
There's a whole bunch of issues with Alien 3. And
it didn't do very well. So this film doing well was a very big deal. Mm-hmm. And revitalized his career.
And then he's basically had a ton of very good movies ever since then.
Is there anything that's not a banger?
I think some people say Mank wasn't that good, and I think The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was considered not that good.
Oh, I have only heard good things about The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and Mank, but that's okay.
Well, I could be wrong. I haven't seen either. I heard The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was fine, I thought, but maybe I gotta give it a watch. Yeah, I actually want to go through his filmography because it's insane.
Yeah.
So I have to say it starts with Alien 3, then 7, The Game, which I made you watch. Not your favorite, but I like it. Fight Club.
Just insane.
Crazy movie. Panic Room, I have not seen, so I can't say.
That's the one with Kristen Stewart as a child.
Good to know. Zodiac, which could be his best. One of my favorites. Love that movie. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, you love.
Yeah.
The Social Network, which I think a lot of people argue actually is his best, which is very funny in comparison to other ones. It rules. Mm-hmm. We don't need another biopic after that, I guess.
You haven't said my actual favorite yet.
The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Mm-hmm. Then Gone Girl, that's your favorite.
I'm fucking in
also amazing movie. Mank, and then The Killer, which you didn't see, but I watched. It came out recently. I feel like David Fincher very well could be a lot of people's favorite directors, and people forget. I like all of his movies that I've seen. But I would never, in my head be oh, yeah, my favorite director, or, best living director. But, he very well could be in the talks of, best living directors.
How old is he? Because he's still got time.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Let me look.
Oh, my God. He's 61?
Is that old or young? What did you expect?
Expected, I guess younger? I don't know.
No, yeah, I kind of expected around that range.
Okay, maybe he doesn't have as much time.
Yeah, Scorsese's 80. He's banged out some of his best.
I will also say he's also done TV, so only talking about film doesn't... He was an executive producer for House of Cards.
What about in Mindhunter, right?
And Mindhunter, both of which were acclaimed, at least. And House of Cards was acclaimed, and then it took a dump.
Damn, he was has 40 Academy Award nominations and 9 wins.
That's actually pretty good stats. I'm gonna give him props for that.
But this was not a movie he won for, and maybe he should have.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So his most nominated film is by far Curious Case of Benjamin Button, followed by The Social Network.
Well, which is funny because I don't.
Followed by Mank, actually.
I like Benjamin Button, but
it's beautiful.
On.
The pacing is just a little rough, but
I just think in comparison to some of these other ones,
Well, he also, can we just talk about how he clearly has a crush on Brad Pitt because he has 3 movies with Brad Pitt?
Who doesn't? Actually, well, he might be a bad person outside of movies, but who doesn't on screen have a crush on Brad Pitt?
Se7en helped Brad Pitt move from roles based off his appearance to more dramatic roles.
Which is good. I've long said Brad Pitt's a character actor trapped in a leading man's body, and it's like a shame that he, I feel like, wasn't able to get to his full potential earlier. And he might still never be able to, although I think he
this definitely
has some
helped.
haters out there.
Yeah, Se7en definitely helped his career and David Fincher's a lot. Se7en only received one nomination at the Oscars. Can you guess what?
I read it off your screen, so no.
You're such a shitbag.
I didn't mean to. I didn't know you were going to ask me to guess.
It was for... Don't look at my notes ever.
I didn't mean to. All right, go ahead.
Cheater. It was for best film editing.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
This movie moves very fast. Well, I shouldn't say it moves fast.
I wouldn't say it moves fast.
Moves very fluently.
Yeah, I think that's a better way of putting it.
And a lot of that's in the editing room, so...
Some of what I thought was really interesting was like where the inspiration for the story came from. So the screenplay is by Andrew Kevin Walker. And so he moved from a Pennsylvania suburb to New York City. And I guess had like wild culture shock of living in a city. And like the rise of crime and substance use. And that's what inspired him to write Se7en.
I feel like that's... very soft of this guy, but...
I agree,
like,
1,000%. However...
Little baby.
He was very depressed, I guess, in New York, and that's why he wrote about an unnamed, bleak and gloomy city.
I can understand being depressed in New York, because I have to imagine it's so big that it can almost be isolating. Like, I get
but
that.
The city part...
The crime part, I really don't take this as a scared of cities type movie, even though that's like the text of it. We'll talk about that when we get to themes. But
we're just going to throw it out there that statistically cities aren't more dangerous than suburbs, and that is a very consistent misunderstanding.
It's per capita, baby.
It's per capita, dumb shits.
There's just more people in cities.
You're going to hear it talked about on the news because that's where the people are.
Yeah.
And because they want to further the narrative of cities are dangerous. We live in Philly.
I did not particularly take this movie as a cities are dangerous movie. I just feel like that's like the backdrop. I did not think
city was relevant at all in the thematic analysis either, so.
Cool. We're on the same page then.
Yeah. So, when it comes to the actors in this film, we already talked a little bit about Brad Pitt and how this helped his career a lot. Kevin Spacey was almost not cast because his fees were too high. But obviously, eventually, he became a part of the production. And if you notice when you watch the film, his name is not included in the opening titles because they wanted to keep John Doe's intrigue going throughout the film. And you don't see his face for quite a while in the film. It's not until he comes into the police station to be like, "It is I."
Yeah, with like 30 minutes left.
Face.
Yeah.
So I love that they kept him out of the opening titles, but because of that, he is then listed twice in the closing titles.
Oh, that's funny.
And I did notice that, and I was like, that's so weird.
There you
because
go.
Once the closing credits come up, it first says, like, with Kevin Spacey as John Doe, and then it goes the credits order by appearance, and then he's listed there with where he appears.
Well, so I'll say, fuck Kevin Spacey. However, he is phenomenal in this movie.
Kevin Spacey is
he's always good.
Tragically one of those actors who's really good, but yeah, absolutely fuck what he did.
The performance in this is still great, and this movie's still worth watching, and I will still praise his work in this.
Yeah, I think we can praise his work and acknowledge that he's done some incredibly shitty things.
It's also funny how many pieces of shits he's played, and now you're like, ooh, how much was he acting? Like, it's a good way to...
Yeah, literally, I was thinking of that, because the most recent thing I had watched before he got Me Too'd, essentially, was House of Cards, and he's, like, an insane piece of shit. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, aha.
Baby Driver, he's insane. 21, he's kind of insane. There's a lot. Usual Suspects, American Beauty, like...
Yeah, I mean...
He might have been
Bosses.
Method acting, you know?
Yeah, apparently. I think he's only played villains from the things I've seen him in.
He's very good in this. But, so is everyone, though,
We don't need to get too much detail about him being a piece of shit. Google it. But he is great in this. So... Yeah. One other piece of acting that I thought was really interesting is that the victim, the sloth victim, the other actors in the scene didn't know that was being played by a person.
Oh my god.
So
Okay.
when he moves, some of the actors' reactions are...
They thought that was a dummy?
Yeah.
Well, the practical effects on that was amazing.
Yeah, they thought it was a dummy, and so everyone, reacted very severely because, they didn't know it was a dude. And I'm pretty sure I read something about how long the practicals took. I don't remember how long, but it was over 6 hours. I know that much.
Worth it.
Yeah. That's
really worth
wild it. In. My last background fact, because I've been going for a while, is that for all the homies out there who are saying, this is a horror podcast, and Se7en is not horror, I'd just like you to know that in 2022, Entertainment Weekly put Se7en as their 18th of the 37 scariest movies of all time.
This is definitely can be classified as horror, and I will say this movie made me more uncomfortable and unsettled than plenty of horror movies I have watched, especially some of the ones we've covered recently. So I'm counting it. It's for all you non-horror fans out there, it's definitely something you could watch, though. It is on the thriller side, but I think in terms of how much it makes you feel like shit, it's up there. It's close to Uncut Gems.
Yeah. I was trying to get one of our friends on this episode because they really like Law & Order SVU, and I was like, murder, you'll like it. It's same vibes. Investigation. Mm-hmm. And they said they didn't want to be on this episode because they did not want me using their love of Law & Order to make fun of them on air. And I said...
Who doesn't like Law & Order?
Girl, SVU is the
Everyone
show,
likes
dog.
SVU.
Yeah, literally what? There is no mocking
that was
needed,
that was
dog.
not going to make fun of them. I love SVU.
Yeah, I said whenever I stay in a hotel, I immediately, when I turn the hotel TV on, I'm looking for SVU.
It's 200% propaganda, but whatever,
Yeah, it doesn't mean
good
it's not...
propaganda.
It doesn't mean it's not entertaining.
Yeah. Good as in, entertaining, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well...
Yeah, so if you're a Law & Order girly, but you don't like horror, this movie, you can still handle it.
Yeah. So... Do we want to do summaries? I also don't have a good 15 seconds, so I kind of want to skip it if you want to. And just... Because my summary that I wrote up, and by wrote up, I mean stole and plagiarized, is long.
I think I can handle a 15 second.
Go ahead, then. I'll just count in my head.
Okay.
Go.
Serial killer kills based off the 7 deadly sins, and it's Kevin Spacey, and that tracks.
All right. That was very literal. Good one.
Yeah, I only got half of... I mean, obviously, I left out the whole investigating part, but I think we got that.
I got nothing fun to say, so I'm going to read the real one.
I don't have anything fun to say. I just knew I could do it and not panic.
Okay. So this one's long. I tried. I'm scrolling for you.
Yeah, that is long.
So I will do my best. But are you ready? I know this movie by heart, to be honest. I could just describe it that way.
Then why couldn't you do summary, bitch?
Nah, you did it already.
All right, whatever.
Okay. And we begin here. In an unnamed city overcome with violent crime and corruption, disillusioned police detective William Somerset is 1 week from retirement. He is partnered with David Mills, a young, idealistic detective who recently relocated to the city with his wife, Tracy. On Monday, Somerset and Mills investigate an obese man who is forced to eat until his stomach burst. The detectives find the word gluttony written on a wall. Somerset, considering the case too extreme for his last investigation, asks to be reassigned, but his request is denied. The following day, another victim who had been forced to cut 1 pound of flesh from his body is found. The crime scene is marked greed. Clues at the scene lead Somerset and Mills to the next victim, a drug-dealing pedophile who they find emaciated and restrained to a bed. Photographs reveal the victim was restrained for exactly 1 year, and the crime scene is marked sloth. Somerset surmises the murders are based on the 7 deadly sins. Tracy invites Somerset to dinner with her and Mills. On Friday, Tracy meets privately with Somerset because she has no other acquaintances in the city. She reveals her unhappiness at moving there, especially after learning she is pregnant and believes the city is an unfit place to raise a child. Somerset sympathizes with Tracy, having persuaded his former girlfriend to abort their child for similar reasons. He advises Tracy to inform Mills only if she intends to keep the child. A remark by Mills inspires Somerset to research libraries for anyone checking out books based on the 7 deadly sins, leading the pair to John Doe's apartment. Doe returns home and is pursued by Mills. Doe incapacitates Mills and holds him at gunpoint, but chooses to leave him alive and flees. The police investigate Doe's apartment, finding a large amount of cash, hundreds of Doe's notebooks, and photographs of some of his victims. Doe calls the apartment and speaks of his admiration for Mills. On Saturday, Somerset and Mills investigate the 4th victim, Lust, a prostitute who has been raped with a custom-made blade strap-on by a man who was held at gunpoint. The following day, the Pride victim is found, a model who Doe facially disfigured. Unable to live without her beauty, she commits suicide. As Somerset and Mills return to the police station, Doe arrives covered in blood and surrenders himself. He threatens to plead insanity at his trial, potentially escaping punishment unless Mills and Somerset escort him to an undisclosed location where they will find the final 2 victims. During the drive, Doe says he believes God has chosen him to send a message about the apathy toward sin. Doe has no remorse for his victims, believing the shocking murders will force society to pay attention to him. Doe leads the detectives to a remote location where a delivery van approaches. Somerset intercepts the vehicle whose driver was instructed to deliver a package to Mills at a specific time and location. Somerset is horrified at the package contents and tells Mills to put his gun down. Doe reveals he himself represents envy because he envied Mills' late wife Tracy and implies the package contains her severed head. He urges Mills to become Wrath, telling him Tracy begged for her life and that the life of her unborn child, which Mills was unaware of. Despite Somerset's pleas, Mills, distraught and enraged, shoots Doe dead, completing Doe's plan. Police remove the catatonic Mills, and Somerset tells his captain he will be around. Somerset says in a voiceover, Ernest Hemingway once wrote, "The world is a fine place and worth fighting for." I agree with the second part.
That is such a baller end, dude.
It is a really great quote. I know you and I both wrote that quote down to talk about, and then I was like, you know what? I think it'll be good to say.
Yeah, that end quote is iconic.
I think I did a pretty good job reading that one. Like I said, I know the movie by heart. I've seen this movie upwards of 5 times.
I've seen it.
This has to be your third, I think.
Without falling asleep, my second.
And you only fell asleep because we put it on at like midnight, and then you went to sleep, and Jason and I were like, this is amazing.
It is how I watch movies. Just go to bed.
I watched this the first time ever with my mom, probably in high school. And I'll say this movie definitely affected me then, and it has continued to affect me.
Yeah, this movie's fucked up, dude.
No, you can't eat and podcast at the same time, Hannah.
Dude, I have to leave in like
I know, but no one wants to hear you chew into the mic.
I'm not chewing into the mic. I'm chewing back here.
All right. So, do you like this movie, Hannah?
Joe.
Is there anything specific you really like about it? Like, what do you think it nails?
I mean, obviously the performances are all great. But something you'll notice, like, right from minute 1, before anyone fucking talks, is this, like, how stylized this movie is. It's so moody. Like, the coloring is very deliberate. It's, like, kind of dark and dingy almost, but, like, deliberately so.
I said this to you
like,
during the movie.
It's very textured.
Yes. The movie's extremely textured and grimy, which is something I always ask for in movies because it just actually feels like a real movie and not a commercial. Secondly, this movie does something that I've seen a bunch of movies fail at, which, like, we've seen a lot of movies that want to go for, like, an eerie mood, go very gray and, like, washed out, and it kind of looks like shit. This movie is gray. However, there's still a lot of contrast. And, like, so it actually, like, looks good, and the colors pop, but it still gives you that, like, oppressive feeling.
Well, and the skin tones still look like skin. Like, it doesn't look like the people are overly filtered, right? Like, they have normal skin coloring. Because, like, sometimes you see when movies are overly filtered, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And so this, like, obviously Fincher knows what he's doing.
I mean, side note, guys, if you're ever editing a photo for whatever the fuck reason, if your skin tones, if people don't look, like, the skin tones don't look right, or, like, you know someone wore a fucking gray jacket and it's not gray in the photo, you've edited your photo incorrectly.
Well, there's a lot of filmmakers that need that lesson from you.
Catherine Hardwicke, Twilight.
Yeah, good point. So, agreed with you on that. This movie is oppressive, is the best way to describe it. From all fronts, the way it's edited, the way it's, like, the way it looks, and obviously the content
It's constantly
of the story.
fucking raining. It's so depressing looking because of that alone.
Oh, and it's not ever just a light rain. It's just
it's like
pouring.
pouring.
It's a really... It doesn't stop raining until the killer reveals himself.
I know. How do you interpret that?
Oh, good question.
Because I noticed that.
I don't know if it's... I'm sure there's
Actually,
a reason.
no. It's still raining when he reveals himself, but it's light. Like, it's,
And the sun has come out.
The sun is coming out. And the first time that it's not raining at all is when they're driving to receive the box.
I don't know how I interpret that. I think it'd be harder to make it look rainy out there for one. There's a much more open area.
Yeah, I didn't know how to interpret it either, which is why I was asking you. So
I don't have a good
disappointed
answer.
you don't
I'm
have an
sorry.
answer. Like,
I can make something up.
is it...
That's what I usually do.
I'm trying to, like, think about, like...
It's kind of a fake happy ending.
John Doe.
Well, I think it's probably symbolically for Somerset as he's kind of come out of his funk, but unfortunately he
that's kinda
loses
what I'm
Mills in the
thinking.
process.
Yeah.
He's come out of his, like, nihilism.
Yeah, like,
which,
he's gaining hope.
Yes.
But that is unfortunately at the loss of his partner's hope.
Yes. Or not his partner, his replacement.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah. That's another
Partner
really
in this
interesting
case, but yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, so, I mean, I will say I think this movie is pretty phenomenal. I said it when I was watching. And from every aspect, I think, like...
The practicals are all super fucking good.
The practicals, you said? Oh, yeah, any of that. Like, from a performance standpoint, like, this is Gwyneth Paltrow's best performance that I've seen.
Her in many things that I like.
Yeah, well, you know what? Good point. She is really, really good. Freeman is always bringing his A game, but, like, it's really on display here. Pitt, and maybe it's the two of them together, works really well.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's very purposeful that we have these, like, moments of levity between them. And, like, this movie would not work.
I love the moments of levity. They're so good.
And I would say this movie would, I know that's thematically partially the point, but also this movie would not work, I think, with other actors. It's really critical you have these two actors that you already like going in, so you're kind of tricked into liking them anyway, because this would be too oppressive.
Yeah.
If you didn't have them.
Well, and I also think, like, there aren't a lot of light scenes. So when we do get them, I think we need them. Because I think we'd just be suffering for 2 hours, and that would be rough.
I mean, I laughed out loud multiple times during this movie.
Well, I think the scene, like, screenplay-wise, that I think is really important in kind of demonstrating some of the differences between Mills and Somerset, as well as giving us that levity, is when Mills's wife invites him over for dinner. And they're all sitting around, they're talking about, like, the train, and they're, like, holding their glasses so they don't rattle.
When the train shakes the whole apartment, yeah.
Or when, like, Somerset looks at how he has been poured wine, which is not in a wine glass, it's just in, like, a Pilsner glass.
Yeah. Filled all the way up.
Yeah.
It's a funny movie, you're right. Like,
Well, I wouldn't say it's a funny movie, but it, like, when it tries to, it's successful. It's not, like, too heavy-handed at being funny. And obviously, if they tried to put too much comedy into a movie about murder, that would be a problem, too.
Something else, there's so many good things, but I'm just trying to think of things that, like, it really, really nails. Obviously, Saw was very inspired by this movie.
Oh, yeah. The opening credits, like, it's so...
The opening credits and also, like, multiple of the kills, like, were later repeated. But something else that it does that the first Saw movie nails, is we never really see the act of the violence. We always see the aftermath, which is worse. Like, much worse, because then it starts, like, our brains start thinking about being in that situation rather than seeing it. So in all of them, it's always the detectives reacting to it. And, like, it's very procedural, but also just, like, horrific and in these dingy, messed up apartments. And it is just, like, so... It, like, makes my stomach hurt. And there are multiple scenes, pretty much every kill, where you just feel... like, awful. I
do like that they don't show us the victims too intimately. Like,
Agreed,
I think if they showed too much, it would just be, like, unbearable, honestly.
They're not the focus. The focus is our detectives and their reaction to it. And you kind of do see it start to eat away at these guys. But
speaking of the murders, is there any particular one that you find, like, the most horrific?
Oh, yes, easily. The Lust.
I think Sloth is the worst one.
All right, fine. You're right. Sloth is the worst one and probably makes me feel the worst. But I think the Lust one is the one that gets in my head and under my skin the most because we don't see anything from that one. We don't. Implied with this knife strap on and the guy's reaction, John's reaction to it.
Yeah.
You know that term, right? John?
Yes,
okay, cool. Is just, and that guy, I've seen him in other stuff, I don't know his name, his, like, reaction to, like, get this thing off me and screaming is
like how
really
horrified
good.
He is.
And, like, that one's, a lot of the other ones are grosser, and Sloth is easily the scariest for me. That one, I think, is, like I said, that's one that burrows in my brain the most of, like, what happened to that poor woman.
Yeah, that one
and the guy,
like
to be honest.
Trap.
Yeah, and the guy, to be honest, having a gun to his head, being forced to kill her. Like,
yeah, that's...
Yeah, makes me want to vomit.
Ooh.
Yeah, that one. I was going to ask you what your favorite one was, but I think you asked it better.
Yeah.
What was your favorite kill?
I wouldn't say I have a favorite.
Sloth, I do agree with.
That's the most horrifying. That one, like, really gets under my skin in a way I can't
For those out there, he was tied down to the bed for a year and just kept alive via barely feeding him and giving him medication.
He is alive when they find him.
He already chewed his own tongue off, and his brain is completely mush.
Yeah. So, there is no quality of life left.
The doctor gives him a great line. This line is crazy. If I wrote this line, I'd get up and celebrate. He basically says something along the lines of, if you shine a flashlight in his eyes right now, he'd die of shock.
Yeah.
And he went through more pain than anyone imaginable, and he still has hell to look forward to, is what the doctor says. And I was like...
Oh, well, because this man...
was a drug dealer and a pedophile.
Yeah, you're looping out the context of that.
I said it in the description.
Oh, okay. Well,
or in the thing. But it's still just oh my God. This is so upsetting.
Yeah. Big fucked.
But I'm just saying, if I were the writer, I'd be getting up and celebrating I just hit a walk-off home run.
Yeah.
Straight up. There was actually a couple of lines in this that make me feel that way, though. There's a lot of really good quotes. Okay. There's plenty of other stuff you have to like. Tell me some.
This is maybe a weird small detail, but I do like how with John Doe, there's that chase scene, and they maintain his anonymity so well. It's just a dude in a hat. Your classic sketch of
I was going to say the
pedophile, honestly.
Yeah.
Just a dude in an overcoat and a hat. And the shadow over his face, so you still don't actually see who it is. And we hear his voice long before we actually see him. Mm-hmm. And I think that again, obviously it was very deliberate, and that's why they didn't want people to know it was Kevin Spacey. So I think having that, and then finally having the reveal, I think is really successful.
It's, it's so funny how much more the reveal works post Kevin Spacey coming out as a piece of shit. Because now it's an actual jump scare. You're oh my God, it's Kevin Spacey.
It is a jump scare.
It's a Kevin Spacey jump scare. I was going to say the costuming in this movie is awesome. Mm-hmm. Just very old-timey police.
Brad Pitt picked out all his own ties because he wanted him to look like a bad dresser.
Yeah, it's great. It's really good. His facial hair's kind of bad in this too. He just looks like shit in this, in a good way. Just looks run down and exhausted.
He still looks hot.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said there. He still looks hot, period.
All right. I will think of other things I like when we talk about themes. Is there anything you don't like about this movie?
Not really.
I was going to say I don't have anything to complain about either. I think I'm bearing the lead on how much I like this so far. I think this movie is fantastic. I think it's close to a perfect film.
I agree with that. And yet, would I put it in my top 10? No.
I was thinking to myself, why is this not in my top 10 after watching it? It is just, it nails everything. And like I said, in themes, we'll talk about it more. I really think that the way it's shot, the way it looks, everything about it services other parts of it. Mm-hmm. Services the themes and the screenplay. Mm-hmm. It just nails it. It's such a good film. So I'm not going to complain about anything in this. Honestly, my only complaint is I just wish there was more of it.
Yeah.
I was having... No. I will say I was having so much fun watching this, even though there were times where my body felt funky. No, I will say, no hides or screams, right? No, you had a scream with the sloth, right?
No.
No, you didn't. Well, no hides or screams, but I was holding my breath multiple times throughout this movie.
No, I feel that way.
I've seen it. I've seen it before.
I cringed a couple times. I was like, geez, that's horrifying.
So, highly, highly, highly recommend. When I talk about my favorite scenes, I'll talk about me holding my breath. But
I don't know if I can pick a favorite scene. The whole thing's horrific.
And by horrific, you mean it's amazing?
I mean, it's super, super well done.
Yeah. Oh, I have a funny story. My mom's listening, but my mom and my cousin Adam watched this movie when he was way too young, because they used to watch a bunch of like slashers and horror movies, and they watched this, and he said this was the only one that truly scared him. They both finished it, and they were like, "Oh my God!" That was horrific because it was way too possible. Mm-hmm. It was way too possible and really messed with their heads, and I think that's very funny. And I felt that way. I will say, I didn't say this either. This was the most affected I've ever been by this movie. I've always really enjoyed it. This was easily the most I have felt while watching it, and I was very impressed. So that's awesome, especially someone who's seen it multiple times.
Yeah, I think that is the sign of a really well done film, is if it can continue to impact you as many times as you've seen it.
Yep, I want to watch it again.
And I'm a chronic movie rewatcher. I love to rewatch movies. So, like, sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean a movie is, like, always great to me if I rewatch it, but I think sometimes I just like watching rom-coms or comedies, and they could be horrible, but I enjoy rewatching them. But for a movie this heavy to want to rewatch it shows it's great.
Yeah.
I feel
I always
about
forget.
Nocturnal Animals too. Like, I'm always kind of down to rewatch that one, and that shit's fucked up also.
Similar levels of I feel sick while watching it.
I
I
think that one has like a scene that's worse than anything in Seven to me, and because it's like a 30-minute scene of like that's extremely horrific and feels really real to me. We talked about that in our horror and non-horror episode, but as a whole, this one is.
Yep. Well, you want to get to some themes on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Apathy versus hope.
So I had a bunch of notes. Actually, I forgot to look at my notes. So I couldn't remember until the end if this movie was like very nihilistic in its themes. And that's very much not the case. It's that you have this nihilistic character in Somerset who wasn't a nihilist before but starts the movie.
John Doe.
And John Doe is sort of a nihilist, but he's trying to like fix that a little. And then let's remove John Doe from the equation for what I'm talking about here.
I do think... you
we
can
come
remove him for this, but I do think it's kind of important that him and Somerset have a lot of parallels.
I do agree they have a lot in common. But I'll say, so Mills is the idealistic detective, and Somerset's the beaten down one, and Mills is coming in to like replace him. So they have this like contrast, and I think that you see Mills like youngness and youth and idealism starts to rub back off and on Somerset, and he like relearns, and by the end he does feel that the world is worth fighting for again, but unfortunately in the process completely loses that young idyllic, I can't say that word, like partner. And it's really, really sad. It does really leave you, it's a bittersweet ending. It's a, what's the opposite of bittersweet? It's like there is like
it's real bitter.
It's real bitter. Well, you get a little bit of Somerset coming out of his nihilism.
The worth fighting for.
Yes, the worth fighting for. So it like leaves you with hope, I guess, like Pandora's box.
Yeah. I would say throughout the movie, Brad Pitt is hope until he just isn't. Like, right in the beginning of the movie, we kind of see that Somerset is pretty nihilistic and apathetic. Like, he even tells Mills that, like, women are taught to yell fire rather than help if they're being sexually assaulted because you'll pay more attention if you selfishly think you're in danger. So, like, we really right off the bat kind of get his characterization from that. They also directly have a conversation where Somerset says, I wish I still thought the way you do. Mills says, then what is it you think we're doing here? And Somerset says, picking up the pieces. Like, he's not actually there to, like, help or... Like, he's not helping anyone. He's just picking up the pieces of what already happened. Because, like, he's apathetic to the whole process, to his job, to what life looks like in this piece of shit world.
And there's a lot of apathy around. I think the opening scene of the movie, he asked, there's a different murder he's investigating, and he said, did the child see it? And the cop was like, why do you give a shit if the child saw it?
Yeah, Mills.
And it's like, no, Somerset asks. Somerset.
Okay,
so there is still this like empathy that he has, but there's just apathy all around him. And I will say, I don't read this as a city or scary. I think it's a extremely condensed version of all the evil in the entire world.
Yeah, it could be set anywhere. It doesn't matter.
And we live in a world where we're, mostly in a bubble, but there is like horrific things happening every day, everywhere. Genocide, racism, like police brutality, crime. There is crime happening. There's all this horrible stuff. Even outside of those, kids getting cancer, people dying, things like that. All of that is happening. And just because all of that is happening doesn't mean we should stop trying or be apathetic.
And
fucking
I think
wealth inequality.
I think like when the movie starts, we kind of see that Mills and Tracy are kind of like naive to that. Like, they're tricked into renting an apartment that absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
Like, obviously the quotes we've described with like how he presents himself and how he comes into work, and he like is so gung-ho for this assignment that everyone else is like, ah! But obviously Tracy comes to that conclusion, I think, a lot sooner than Mills does, because, I mean, we literally have the conversation with her, like, essentially, do I want to keep the baby?
And she just doesn't know if she wants to because she doesn't want to bring a baby into this evil world.
Yeah.
But I really do think that this city is supposed to be our just whole world.
Yeah. No, I don't think it has to do with the city.
Yeah. Although the city itself is a character in this, which is cool.
And then Morgan Freeman, direct quote, "I don't think I can continue to live in a place that embraces and nurtures apathy as if it were a virtue." And he talks about how, like, apathy is easier, and because of that, he doesn't want the job anymore. And the ever so positive Mills says, "I think you want to believe that because you're quitting."
That's right. I love that line.
Mm-hmm. Not like you believe that so you're quitting.
You're not, yeah.
You want to believe that because you're quitting.
So do you think, even though Mills is naive, that the point is that we all need to have a little bit of
optimism?
That optimism and that naivety?
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel that way? Okay. I do too. I did write Morgan Freeman is wrong, but because it's Morgan Freeman, I like want to believe him.
Well, Morgan Freeman is literally God. The first movie that I ever like mentally was like,
that's Morgan
that
Freeman.
guy was Bruce Almighty, because my dad was obsessed with it when I was younger.
It's a cute movie.
And so I've just like my whole life been like, Morgan Freeman is God. Like when I think of what God is, I think of Morgan Freeman, and that's I think. So, it makes me want to be religious.
It's genius to it's genius to cast him here though, because he is in the wrong ideologically, and he's, as you said, he is aligned with John Doe ideologically. John Doe just acted on it.
John Doe is basically like relying on that apathy. Well, and he says, if you want people to listen, you can't just tap them on the shoulder anymore. You have to hit them over the head with a sledgehammer. Is one of his quotes when they're like riding out into the desert. He also basically, his whole thing is like, we tolerate sin because it's trivial and common. We're apathetic
so they are two sides of the same coin, really. Mills and Somerset at this point, and I think Somerset and John Doe, right? But Somerset is done with everything because he also is upset with the apathy in the world and steps away. John Doe is upset with the apathy and says, "I'm going to make a statement by doing these horrific murders and being more evil than the apathy already is." And so like you could almost see that Somerset could have gone that same route, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's kind of I think that's part of the point.
And do you think so, seeing this, one, Mills helps him, but also seeing this image of himself, looking in the fucking dark mirror of himself, he is able to come out of it and like come out, and that's where you do get your kind of bittersweet, like somewhat hopeful ending.
The world is a fine place and worth fighting for. I agree with the second part.
Yeah, that's so cool. That line.
It's a baller
get
line.
Goosebumps. And I think that's the main thing. You know, I feel like I had a little brain blast when I said Pandora's box, because you could kind of read the box with the head in it, Tracy's head, as Pandora's box for Somerset. Because if you remember the story, it's that she opens it and basically all of the negativity. Well, everything's out. Negativity, all the awfulness, all the evil, but then at the very bottom is a tiny little thing, and that's hope. And that's what Somerset gets again by the end of the movie. Although he does let even more evil out, because John Doe does, and we don't know what's going to happen now, because John Doe thinks that by doing this, there's going to be copycats, we're going to fix all the problems in the world because he did this, like, artistic killing, basically.
Well, I wanted to ask you, like, about the religious theming in here. Do you think this movie is actually about religious extremism, or is John Doe just using religion as an excuse to kill people and we just needed a reason?
Those are the same things.
No, I know, but like, do you think they just like needed to write him in a reason and they were like, religion? Or do you think it's intentional that they picked
I don't think John Doe's religious. I think that he wants to use the seven deadly sins to kill people because he does see this like evil world. But I think that's inherently tied to religion. You think it's tied to his religion? Do you think like they're trying to write it as he was some like raised really religious, like evangelical lifestyle? And I just don't know.
No, I don't know. That's kind of why I'm asking you, like, if it matters or not when reading the film. Like, is this film commenting on the historical relationship between religion and violence?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
And I do think it does inherently kind of comment on that. There is, like, historically a big link between religion and violence. And 100%. Using religion to commit acts of violence, but yeah, I don't think the movie's like actually going in and trying to say much on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's there. I think it's such a common thing that it's like an easy beat for a story. Yeah. I don't think like thematically you can take that away. I think there are other themes that are like stronger though. So it's like, it's there. Nothing crazy though. I think it's also just a cool idea to be like, let's kill people using the 7 deadly sins, and then to perfectly align that you are the last one. I mean, he kind of nailed it. This is like Joker level of planning in The Dark Knight. He clearly was.
Well, he clearly shows the pervasiveness and infectiousness of sin, because he essentially takes this very like innocent man and makes him a murderer by the end. So
yes, he corrupts him.
Yeah,
it's like it's brutal. I'm getting sad thinking about it. Like he does win. This is a movie where the bad guy wins in the end, and we don't really know what's going to happen post him winning, because like I said, he believes that there's going to be a bunch of copycats and the world's going to change because of what he did. I don't think so, based on what I know of this world.
No, this man is just off his rocker.
Cuckoo bananas.
Yeah, he is cuckoo banana. Can you stop saying that in the episodes, please?
But like maybe it's because Kevin Spacey is speaking it, that there's like a minute there when he's in the car that you start to believe him a little bit. Like you're like, oh yeah, like he is going to change this world. Like he just you didn't feel that? No, maybe I'll let it in. I don't think he was. But like, he truly believes though. He truly
believes that.
And like, there's like almost a moment where Brad Pitt's voice like falters a little bit, and you kind of think, and he's trying to like put on this front of like, no, you're just insane. And like, even he seems to be like a little scared of like what could happen.
He's definitely scared, and that's why he's like putting up this like tough guy front. Because he is kind of starting down his path of being less hopeful and optimistic.
I think we nailed the themes. The world is worth fighting for, but it is not a good place. It's right there for you.
Yep.
Like, it's true.
They wrap it up.
Emotionally made me feel very like good though, because it is something like it's also maybe not fighting for, but just like living for the little things. There are plenty of terrible things, but there are things that we can enjoy, and like we can take our little wins, and like that's all we can do with our time here. And so like while we have this time here, like do it. Be the best person you can be. Try to find those like little wins.
Yay.
So like I said, there is hope.
Yeah. They do really wrap it up in a tight little bow with that end quote. Yeah.
All right, what are we talking about next? Some hot takes or something?
I don't have any hot takes.
Or favorite scenes? Which one do we do first?
Why does it matter, my man? I love you ask that in every episode. You're like, which goes first? Like
I don't know.
Still, I have my list of talking points, but I don't really care what order they go in as long as it makes sense.
Oh, well, my hot take.
I don't have one. Oh, I guess maybe I have a hot take. This is my only negative thing I have to say about the movie.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I've decided. Maybe it's not a hot take. I don't know how people feel about this. What's in the box? Content-wise, horrifying. Don't like his delivery.
Oh, fully disagree, but that's okay.
His delivery really bugs me.
People have like,
what's in the box?
All right, you just peaked the mic. You talk so quiet this whole episode, and then you're.
Well, I'm imitating his performance. Right. I'm sorry. It's probably gonna just sound like.
No, I disagree. I mean, it's been memed to death, so maybe some people agree.
Why.
No, I really like it because he's pissed.
Is he pissed?
Yeah.
He's upset.
He's freaked out. Yeah, he's freaked out. And the fact that Mills won't, or Somerset won't tell him.
Well, yeah.
That's like they've grown so much together, and then he's like, put down the gun. Like he's trying to get him to put down the gun and trying to like talk him off this ledge. It's a good
Honestly, there's no talking off the ledge at this.
I know.
No.
But he hopes. You have to hope. Okay, so my hot take and also terrible take is people always complain about how this movie is unrealistic because of like how John Doe does all the crime. Well, it's a little interesting how he planned out something for a year and had everything set up to the day, but then also hadn't really had a plan for his last two victims or changed them at the last second. Like that clearly. Well,
he says he changed it. That's in the text.
Yeah, he changed it. Okay, well, some people complain about like how the semantics of all of this.
Nah.
And I say, fuck that, because it's cool as fuck and it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a concept problem.
If you're going to complain about that, you're a little baby. That was kind of my point. Skill issue, as we say.
I think that's a twat noodle thing.
It is. No, it is. It's been a complaint that people have had. Same the way they complain about The Dark Knight, how the Joker's like plan doesn't make any sense. But guess what? It doesn't matter if it doesn't make any sense because the movie rocks.
Oh, we said this during the movie. It's so funny how the Batman takes so much inspo from this movie.
Oh, yeah, the Batman. Like, Matt
That's what I
Reeves.
said?
Yes, sorry. Oh, I just said The Dark Knight, so I wanted to make sure we specified.
The Batman.
Yeah, there's so
Starring
much inspiration.
Robert Pattinson.
Like, I don't want to say it copied, because it kind of does in some ways, but it just works really well. Mm-hmm. Like, it's fine that it, like, steals some stuff.
Pays homage.
Pays homage. Yeah, it's appreciation, not appropriation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and more movies probably should. Like, a lot of the movies that were inspired by this are great. You have Saw, you have The Batman, you have Fincher's other work, like, which is all good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. My other hot take was that possibly it could be his best movie.
I'm fine with you saying that.
I think it could be his best.
Half of his movies you could really put in contention for that.
I don't want to come out and say it's his best because I love Zodiac. And I know The Social Network's really good.
I mean, I still haven't seen Zodiac, but, like, let's consider his filmography. I think a lot of people could consider Se7en. I think a lot of people could consider Benjamin Button. A lot of people actively do think it's The Social Network. A lot of people love Gone Girl.
I've heard a lot of people love Zodiac.
I said I hadn't seen it, so that's why I didn't throw it in there. And, like, Fight Club is Fight Club, but I think that's more the book, like, story. Although you could say that about Gone Girl, too. But, yeah.
Keep making movies. We want more. The Killer was also very fun, but definitely not his best.
Yeah,
all right. Favorite scenes? Someone say it.
I know how to have one. I guess.
Well, I can do two.
I mean, I like the end narration, so like that, 7 seconds. Yeah, I don't know how to have a favorite scene about. It's like a movie where they just find 5 murder victims. So like, I don't know how to have a favorite.
Okay, easily I can have a favorite scene. My favorite scene is the What's in the Box scene. I think, and I'll say this time I was watching
cliche?
Pretty much everything from the point that's not cliche. That's just the right answer.
I do like the car ride.
That's good too.
To the What's in the Box. But I guess I could say that.
What I'm saying is everything from the car arriving to the end of the movie is so well crafted with like the helicopter shots, the binocular shots. You're with Somerset stopping the car. He's in Somerset's in panic mode, and he's like trying to stay cool because he's the veteran cop in this situation. He runs back. Well, and you just have Kevin Spacey. Yeah, and he's like he doesn't want to lose him. He doesn't want to lose him. He's like, if you do this, he wins. And I will say, watching this, I was like holding my breath, and I, in my head, was like, maybe this will be the time he doesn't like do it. Straight up, I was just like hoping. I was like, please. I was like, maybe he won't.
Sure.
This time. No, straight up, like I couldn't help myself. I was like, please, just Brad Pitt, don't do it. I was like, Mills, just don't. I was like, it's okay. Like, we're going to get through this. And I'm like in my head, like just like praying, like let him not do it. And it's like really heartbreaking. And it's slow. It takes a while because he's asking. And like there's this shot of him where it's this close up Brad Pitt's face where he like looks at the ground crying, looks back up, like looks at the ground crying again, and it like sticks on him and he like can't decide. And you can see the range of emotions going through him. And Somerset's there just like doing all he can to like keep his buddy, they're buddies now, from doing it. And then Kevin Spacey just delivers the whole like, oh, like, yeah, she begged for her life and the life of her unborn child. Oh, you didn't know about that, did you? And then you have Somerset, who now
really puts him over the edge.
And he looks at Somerset and says, like, tell me it's a lie. And Somerset knows about the baby, and so he's just stuck. And it's just a masterclass between the three of them and the director and the editor there.
Yeah, the editing and that.
And when
really
he just pulls the trigger, and it is just so upsetting. And it's not. Like, it is climactic, but, like, it's not anything crazy happens. He just gets put in the car, and Somerset's like, please make sure he's taken care of. Because they know, like, no one faults him for doing it. That's, I think, what's also really interesting. No one faults Mills for doing it. They know why. Most of them would have made the same decision.
Yeah.
And most of the audience would have made the same decision. Yeah. And I think that's what really hurts. It hurts my stomach now. Felt like it can make me cry at that end. Because, not because his wife dies. That is sad. But it's just that, like, you want him to succeed. You want him to not do it, especially because he was this, like, had all this, like, hope before. And it really, like, breaks your heart. It is a heartbreaking movie.
Yee.
And that's why I think it's my favorite scene. So am I still a cliche when I describe it that way?
Yeah.
All right. The second best scene is finding the sloth victim. That was fucked up.
That one's fucked.
The guy also talking to the dead body, going, "You got what you deserved," and then the guy wakes up. He basically poops his pants.
I really don't want to keep talking about that because I just ate and thinking about that scene's going to make me puke.
Well, I will say the air fresheners also are an amazing touch to have
that's
200 air fresheners hanging from the ceiling.
Horrifying. And they're all over the floor. They're littered across the room. They're not just on
This
the
movie's
ceiling.
fucked up. Everyone should watch it.
It is fucked up.
Yeah. All right, let's rate it. I got nothing else to say other than please watch. It's very good. Thematically awesome. Looks amazing. Acted great. Perfect film.
Yee. All right, so we know you're giving it a 10 out of 10,
No,
right?
I wanted to be more exciting about it. Can't believe you would do that.
Well, you just said it's a perfect film.
It is. All right.
You
if you're
did
coming
it
to
yourself,
me,
dog.
we have another. We don't have too many 10 out of 10s from me, but another Matt Hanna 10
I don't
out
think I've
of
given
10.
a single movie a 10 out of 10 because I refuse.
Is this the one?
No, it's not.
You refuse? You're a coward. Some movies are just 10s. This movie, it's sometimes you're watching a movie and you just can feel it. I know for a 10 out of 10 is very much a feeling for me. Like I know when I'm watching it a 10 out of 10, and I knew while watching this, I was like, this is a 10 out of 10 movie.
I don't know.
It just is.
I don't know how to give a movie a 10 out of 10. Just like I don't know.
How about you grow the fuck up?
Yeah, I don't know.
Stop being scared.
I can retroactively give someone a 10 out of 10 if you want me to.
Sure. What would you give a 10 out of 10? Norton just cried. He wants to go outside. All right, so rate this so I can walk the dog.
Like a 9.4.
9.4. Just give it a 10, you
No,
coward.
I think it's a great movie, but I don't love it. Like I just don't.
Oh
I don't
my
get
God.
excited to rewatch it, and I feel like that would give it a 10 for me.
I do. Okay. Well, that's it. I have to walk my dog. You have to go to Connecticut.
Norton was crying because he knew I couldn't retroactively give something a 10.
Yeah.
Just kidding. It's Hereditary. Okay.
Oh, interesting, because I give Midsummer a 10, but not
I was
Hereditary.
going to say it's one of those.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm Matt Hanna.
I'm still anxious.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannas. We'll see you next week.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Horror Hour with the Hannas. Make sure to listen to future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you can find podcasts. You can follow us at Horror Hour with the Hannas on TikTok and Instagram for more content. If you like the podcast, please follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. Happy hauntings!